off. If you actually want a Ford Ranger Raptor, good luck. They're an extreme low supply. Some dealers are even telling people, for example, in Canada, one dealer told one of our viewers that only 6 Raptors would be given this year to the entire province of Alberta. And, some provinces, 1. I don't know if it's going to be that bad. I know as a dealer, we're getting one, and we're not the only dealer in Quebec getting one. And I do know that one of our viewers over in Australia said that he was like, Johnny, you're having trouble getting your Raptor? Wow, that really sucks. My dealer has, and I think he told me 7 on the lot that were for sale. And even if they weren't for sale and there are customer orders, 7. I'm not getting a Ranger Raptor. The one that we're getting has been allocated to someone. So what then is the best model? Well, if you're looking for value, the XL is fantastic value. It doesn't come with rims. It comes with like steelies, or what we here call rims. It comes with an actual wheel, a full aluminum wheel that's not going to rust over time. It will drive it through all the summers, winters, salt, calcium, mud, rock, whatever. This thing's going to look great for years and years to come. But how great does it look? The styling's not for me, but the price is. $44,065 starting Canadian MSRP. That is a solid deal. Now you could go up to a Lariat, and you are going to get considerably better wheels here. If you go up to a Lariat, you're going to get better wheels, but this isn't longer. It's not wider than the XL. It is 2 inches longer and 2 inches wider than the 2023, and the look is amazing. I parked my Bronco Wild Track. That is the model below the Raptor, thinking my Wild Track is going to completely eclipse this. I gotta check this out. Let's see how big the Ranger looks. And I thought it would eclipse it, and it didn't. It really, really didn't. The Bronco parked beside this thing made me think, wow, the Ford Ranger, the all-new 2024 Ford Ranger is a big deal. It's a big deal because at roughly 44,000 Canadian, you can get an XL, and it's not going to look like a puny little wimp parked beside one of the biggest Ford Broncos you can get. And the Ford Bronco is huge. The grill's up high, it's squared off. You walk beside one of these Sasquatch models or Wild Track models, and you can tell it's a big deal. It has a huge physical presence in a parking lot, on a road. It even looks pretty big beside it looks big beside an F-150. The Ranger looks really big, but is it really, really heavy, making the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder turbo engine a bad option? No, the straight 6 is a reliable engine. The 2.3 liter has been around since about 2016. It's a fantastic engine. It's got enough power for the 2024 Ranger. Now, if you're power hungry, if you're all about that pedal to the metal, miles per gallon, entertainment level coming from your vehicle, then the 2.3 liter might not be quite enough. But it does, because it doesn't, the 2.3 liter in the Bronco I've tested often, it doesn't really fully kick you hard into the seats, but it does accelerate really quick. So the 2.3 liter is going to be a good engine for this. I've got a review out from when I test drove, I think it was a 2022 Ford Ranger Tremor model with the 2.3 liter, and before the test drive I thought it was going to be pretty lackluster, and I was impressed. And the 2.3 liter in the Bronco sounds great. It actually kind of sounds, there's more sound than from my 2.7 liter, and I was like, wow, this is really nice. It sounds good. It accelerates quickly. The new Ranger, the extra width and extra length makes it more comfortable, makes it jump around less. The back end isn't going to jump around all over the place, because the wider a vehicle is, better track, better width, and a little bit better length adds stability. And 2 inches doesn't sound like much, but it's a ton. It's a ton. Everyone's going to be happy with how this thing comports itself. But which one's the one to buy? Well, if you really like equipment, the Lariat at $56,515 is the way to go, but it's not the way I would go. I think the best value, the absolute best value, we got to check it out here. I think the way to go is the XLT. And I just want to pull this out. I am having trouble with the slides today here. So the XLT here, let's see what this looks like in the real world with some real world conditions, a little cloud, a little rain. XLT looks fantastic. It now comes standard with the Sport package. So you're not XLT right off the bat, you get the Sport package. You don't have to pay for all this great extra looks, and I think this does look a lot better than the XL. But how much more does it cost? I think it's really worth it. Here we've got one at 49,269 Canadian, of course. But what's the overall cost here? Starting price, 48,315. And you've got a great looking truck there. You've got a lot of comfort, and with the 2.3 liter, you have a very capable engine. But I think the real bargain, you get either get an XL with, you know what? I don't think the XL is going to have the 2.7 liter V6 twin turbo engine available for it. I think it's going to be available on the on the Lariat and available on the XLT, but I won't be surprised if either as an XLT it takes like a special package, for example, maybe a Tremor package, or if it requires that you don't just take a straight XLT plus engine, maybe it'll be XLT plus one or two of the added on packages, increasing the price there by $3,000-4,000, and then adding on the $2,000-3,000 motor. But think about it. Just there, you've got pretty much pure perfection out of a mid-size truck, which isn't so mid-size anymore. A lot of people are, renewing, going back to shop their Ford F-150s that they bought back in 2015 to 2021, and they're looking at the new F-150 and are saying, oh, wow, that's a lot more per month. Here's an option. Now, of course, at first, the interest rate's going to be high, but if they ever do start to pile up on lots, then interest rates will be cut. If they don't pile up on lots, well, then it's going to be like Toyota Tacomas. The interest rate month after month will remain high. But if you can get a 2.7 liter V6 come probably sometime this summer that will be able to order it into an XLT, you essentially have a Raptor on your hands without the suspension and the tires. But if you don't really need the suspension because you don't plan on going jumping in the desert or go high-speed driving over the whoops or, crawling through rocks, of course, you can always get the FX4 package or just put the blindage in French, but the skid plates underneath the vehicle. But this would look pretty awesome. 2-inch lift in the front, bigger tires, bigger and aggressive tires. And just there with your 2.7 liter, you've got a baby Raptor, or what we could call kind of your homemade Tremor. But of course, if you go with more of a lift and change out the suspension and put quite big tires on, you can kind of get it into looking like a Raptor without spending 83,000 Canadian. So with this being starting price, of course, without the $2,000 for transport and handling, but let's say essentially 50,300. And even if it costs 5,000 in added options, plus the engine to get the 2.7 liter V6, 55 versus 83 makes the XLT an incredible bargain for a motor that you can just chip if you want to have Raptor 3 liter power out of your 2.7 liter V6. Just chip it. And then you've got a whole lot of money left over for whatever suspension, wheel, and tire kit you want to throw on this. And yes, the Raptor will always have that, Raptor resale value. It's known as a Raptor. You've got the whole wow and cool factor behind it. But if you want to have the factor, the wallet factor, where your wallet isn't completely flat when it's in your back pocket and you sit down, but you gotta, your wallet's still a little thick and you sit on an angle, well, then your cool wallet factor is going to go for modifying an XLT with a 2.7 liter. But for me personally, if I get a 2.7 liter instead of really long haul waiting this Ranger Raptor I can't get my hands on, it'd be a 2-inch lift. And with a 2-inch lift, the biggest, most aggressive tires that I can fit, probably BF Goodrich KO3s, and I'll just run those year round and I'll sell the original tires, which on the Sport model, don't look bad, but they certainly don't look aggressive. And I like to sometimes go play around in a farmer's field or go through the woods with a mix of rocks, mud, go through streams. And I like the look. I like the look. It's not just for the off-roading. I like to show up looking tough at the Costco. So that's what I think. Please let us know in the comments. What is the right Ranger, all new Ford Ranger model for you? And yeah, and Peugeot, that's a really good point. Your 5-liter STX F-150 that was a smart buy, and you got it at the right time. Prices on the big trucks are forced to go up because of taxation. Automakers need to have a really high mile per gallon fleet average, otherwise they pay billions of dollars to the government or Tesla. So we got to think here. Now's the time. Even though the prices have gone up, I don't expect these prices to go down unless these environmental rules and fines and carbon taxes come down. And yes, the carbon taxes can end up costing a lot. In some countries, they treat the citizens like in a certain manner, as if they can charge whatever they want. Because look at this. A small country, population-wise, huge physical presence, tiny population. We've got about 40 million. Look at, France. I don't have the population numbers from France, but France must be in the hundreds of millions of people living out there. And the annual revenue in 2022 for carbon tax was 8.9 billion, while in Canada 7.8 billion. This is what happens when you're not willing to kind of put your foot down and say, we're going to have to protest about this. We're going to have to kick and scream and complain. It's ridiculous. And this was in 2022. Carbon tax in Canada has gone up much, much higher. And this year, it's in the process of going much, much higher. And we're having trouble, I'm saying we Canadians in general, not us personally, but in general, Canadians are having trouble with the cost of housing, rent, food, and heating, and and fuel prices. But when roughly 60% of your fuel price is taxes, it makes it pretty hard. So that's the show for tonight. You got to figure out which Ford Ranger works for you. So let us know, for the all new Ford Ranger, which model would you get? What do you think is the best bargain out there? Thank you so much, folks, for watching. I really appreciate the community here. I see that there's a lot of